Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today we're going to do a deep dive on one of my favorite chapters in the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeland. Reality Transurfing, again, if you haven't heard of it, is a wonderful book written by Vadim Zeland, a physicist, that kind of outlines a process of reality creation that is expansive and really covers a lot of ground on a kind of advanced level of how to create reality. Very similar to the law of attraction, but if you took it to the next level. So this particular chapter is one of my favorites because we've spent a lot of time up in the book so far discussing the principles of reality creation, such as the mirror and controlling your intentions and coordination of intention. But now this chapter, The Gatekeeper to Eternity, really does a fantastic job of giving methods, specific methods that can be used in order to create or control your reality. So now we're going to look at specific methods. And the beginning of the chapter starts with, my world and I are off to buy a toy. A lot of times people will get a book like this and it's too long. Tell me the specifics. And it's always kind of a complicated thing to try to answer the question, what is reality transurfing? Well, there's a lot to it, but sometimes by going over these sections, even if you go over it a second time, you can really get a lot of information. And even when I do these, even after I've read the chapter multiple times, stuff comes up while I do these podcasts, and they've been very popular. So also, I would like to use this section to create some meditations. I think there's some really good meditation ideas in this. So I hope you guys enjoy, and put in the comments what your favorite section is. We can try to go over a section in the future. So in previous episodes, we were introduced to the principles of controlling reality. Now, we're going to look back at specific methods. The first essential condition, without which transurfing is totally impossible, is that you must have good energy levels. Check out my episode on transurfing energy. It's transurfing energy, a meditation that uses the principles from this book. And it's very similar to that section. There are two kinds of energy: physiological energy and free energy. You feel the former as a warmth and physical strength, and it is released as a result of metabolism. To support your levels of physiological energy, it is sufficient to eat well, rest, exercise, and get fresh air. Free energy originates in the cosmos, flowing along energy channels, and it manifests itself as vigor or vitality. This energy is the energy of intention, which enables a person to feel capable of decisive action. If you slog every day when you only have enough strength to carry out routine activities, and most importantly, if you're apathetic about life, then this indicates that you have extremely low energy levels. You could say that the free energy is the same as life force. In youth, the energy of intention is overflowing. Imagine an old lady with a sickly guise. She totters and groans, and you can tell that every movement is hard for her. Imagine then that she unexpectedly breaks into a run, take a skip and a jump, and leaps into the air with a victorious shout of yes, swiping the air with a sharp movement of the hand. It seems inconceivable, and yet this is exactly what the old lady would want to do if her energy levels were increased sufficiently. Why is it that a person produces their best creations in the first or second third of their life? It all comes down to the energy of intention. Yet, if you maintain your energy at the right level, you can create masterpieces at any age. Life force and creative force atrophies when a person ceases to strive. There are people who look upon the world with indifference. They know everything already. They have experienced everything, and the feeling of satiety. They see the world as a well-trodden path in an oft-visited park where nothing could ever surprise them anymore. You can hear them in their indifferently lazy voice, lecturing others and proving that they know it all. People like this age early never tire of looking at the world with a wide open eyes, and you will have more energy. Such is its quality. When a person no longer allows themselves to wonder at the world or to strive for new ideas, it is not only that their development comes to a halt, but a process of degradation sets in and they age. Life is a process. There can be forward and backward movement, but there can be no stops along the way. In nature, stops and total lack of movement just do not exist. Even a cliff transforms its appearance. In order to activate the energy of intention, to have to hitch it with a goal. The energy is ignited when you create a dynamic action. It is like a feedback loop. Dynamic action generates intention. Intention ignites life force. If you remain apathetic and sit with your arms folded, doing nothing, try to set about doing something, anything, and then energy will come to you. Sometimes all it takes is some kind of initial push to get you going. This reminds me of the anomalous challenge that Rene Garcia has going on the International Transurfing Institute group, which is a great idea. It's something I recommend. Sometimes just taking action, going and doing something anomalous opens up different lifelines. And if you do it every day, and something, as I've done this challenge and tried to change something and do something a little bit different every day, something anomalous. I've, gone to new restaurants, checked out new places, done new things, and I've just realized that it's kind of, because of the challenge, made this little push. The initial push is sometimes all it takes. You might think that you are low on energy and that you need to get some from somewhere. However, this is not the case. In reality, you have mountains of energy because it comes from the cosmos, and you can take as much as you can carry. The fact of the matter is that you have probably already taken as much as you could. Energy does not disappear, so it is probably already being put to use. All its titanic power is spent on maintaining two kinds of burden. First and foremost, the burden is the limitations and obligations you have taken upon yourself. You agree to some kind of obligation, and it is as a heavy plummet is hung on you. Then you place certain conditions upon yourself, and you carry another plummet. The word plummet is being used. I think that it's another bad translation. It sounds to me like they're making the metaphor that you're carrying a heavy burden is hung on you. Then you promise yourself or someone else something, and then there comes the next one. How many burdens do you have? How many plummets do you have around your neck? Whilst you are relatively few in number, a person can go on. But one day, there will come a time when the burden can no longer be lifted. Then there is a crisis. Pushed into a corner, the person becomes ill, falls into depression, or something tragic happens. They become tense and look at the world with fear and mistrust. As a result, reality as a reflection of their thoughts begins to genuinely take on ever gloomier shades. A difficult patch in one's life begins that can go on for a very long time. The second type of burden consists of the load of excess potential, ascribing excess significance to various objects. You encumber yourself with an immense burden. It becomes an unmanageable mountain of baggage. These are the feelings of inferiority. I must be cool, protect, and consolidate my importance. The feeling of guilt and responsibility. I must work on my service and fulfill my duty, exaggerating the complexity of problems. I have a huge amount of work to do, as well as other doubts and concerns that constantly weigh you down. So it's an interesting idea. We get energy from the limit. We push energy to limit our obligations, to limit ourselves. We expend energy. But we also have energy expended when there's excess potential. Very much like the energy that you feel if you stood on a cliff or stood at the edge of a building. I remember when I went to the Grand Canyon, standing on the edge, walking along the edge. You feel this energy. There's butterflies that come up when you're right on the edge. And that energy is an actual energy of excess potential. But that same interplay of energy is occurring on a normal level and you don't know it. That energy is when you place importance on something and it creates excess potential. So when we talk about, for instance, a specific person that you want to meet, then you create excess potential by placing a particular burden on that person. And that energy ends up displacing the specific person that you're trying to achieve. This understanding of excess potential may allow you to meet your specific person if you understand the rules of the game. So, a lot of people live like this, weighed down on all sides by all sorts of obligations, unfinished business, harsh conditions, plans, and numerous goals. The goal will activate the energy of intention, but only on the condition that it is realized and does not just hang at the project stage. There is nothing easier than planning a job, placing conditions on it, and making promises. Take into account, though, that by pinning even the smallest obligation to yourself, you hang a weight around your neck, which draws on part of the energy of intentions, and you will have to go forward carrying this weight. So if you've ever, one of the things my trainer used to do with me was we'd put on a 20-pound vest, and then we'd go hiking. Have you ever done that? Have you ever done something like that? Carried extra weight purposely on a hike? Well, that's what's happening when you're creating importance and then you're with all your obligations. These burdens weigh you down and they require more energy to carry along. In addition, one of the main causes of low energy levels is the basic accumulation of toxins in the body. It is very simple. The energy channels narrow like an old pipe with a buildup of scale, as a result of which energy flow is reduced to a small trickle. This creates a deficit of free energy, which causes various other problems, including a poor physical condition, low levels of creativity, illness, and everything associated with it. What happens is that the greater portion of energy that squeezes through the narrow energy channels goes towards maintaining an entire garland of useless weights. The pitiful portion of energy that remains is your total reserve for vitality, which gives you alertness, proactiveness, cheerfulness, optimism, the desire to have everything you want right now, and the feeling that you can move mountains. Judging from their condition, everyone can roughly make out what reserve of vitality they have left. You will not find many individuals who are, in quotation marks, wealthy in this regard. So all your free energy is employed in a whole range of unrealized potential intentions or plans, which only weigh you down. In order to free up resources, you have to either get rid of a portion of the potential intentions to bring them into being. Ask yourself, what is oppressing you? If you give it some thought, you should be able to drop many weights without regret. You may feel that you really need many of these weighty trinkets and could not possibly get rid of them. Yet, what is the point if you are continually carrying them around with you, but cannot ever realize them? For example, I have to be better than everyone else. I must always be at my best. I will prove to others and myself what I am worth. I do not have any other choice than to continue walking the path I have chosen. Only winning is an option, otherwise I will not be able to respect myself and anymore. I cannot make a mistake, and so on and so on and so forth. Like giving up smoking, learning a foreign language, and generally beginning a new life as of Monday. It is true that everything that is endlessly put off until later is a useless load to carry. These things should either be eliminated from your list of brought into being because they take up energy, which is just stupid to waste. For example, when a person in the process of giving up a bad habit of some kind, a double portion of energy is spent. On the one hand, you still have to pay the pendulum interest on the loan, and on the other hand, you still have to carry the heavy burden of the obligation to drop the habit. This kind of rigmarole can end up being drawn out for years. Forcing yourself to do something should be replaced with conviction. If you're going to give something up, then do so with conviction, and not because you feel that for some reason you have to. If you force yourself into a corner by volition, you pump up the tension even more, and this inevitably leads to a crisis. Therefore, it is more sensible to choose one means of the other. Either decidedly realize your intention or relieve yourself of the burden of the weight of obligation and channel the habit into a more manageable flow. For example, rather than scrounging cigarettes or collecting cigarette butts, it would be better to get yourself a decent pipe and purchase good quality tobacco. Rather than doing a pub crawl or drinking in secret, hiding around a corner, it would be better to carry a presentable hip flask. Basically, this means building a partnership relationship with your creditor. As a result, the harmful vice will become more measured and manageable. The bank is more likely to give a respectable client preferential terms, to say nothing of the fact that the habit, once set free, is much less harmful than a habit you hate but cannot do anything about. Declaring your intention at this point will only make matters worse, and of course, that is not an ideal situation. Before you turn a harmful habit into a civilized manner, you need to have a good look at yourself and be honest with yourself about what you're doing. Another type of burdensome weight would be studying, or rather cramming. When your intention is to fill your head with information, you end up creating huge tension. In this case, intention is not realized. It is simply pumped up with tension. And so even if I am repeating a truism, it is worth repeating. There is no point in memorizing information. It just ends up becoming more lifeless baggage that takes a disproportionate amount of energy to load. Knowledge, unlike data, is only properly assimilated in action through concrete examples of when an intention is realized. For example, if you are used to helping children with their lessons, try the opposite approach. Let them explain the lesson to you, and you will feel the difference straight away. It all comes down to the focus of intention. Intention has to be redirected so that passive intent is transformed into active intent. When this happens, useless weights that require memorizing will fall away instantly. You might have one huge weight that you have secretly been thinking of dropping for a long time, but have not yet been able to finally do it. Imagine how light and relieved you will feel if you drop it. Let yourself go. Give yourself more freedom. Compile a list of things that oppress you and take the weight from your shoulders. You will immediately free up reserves of the energy of intention, which will enable you to go forward. As we said before, a goal activates the energy of intention in the process of its realization. It is best, of course, to find your innermost goal. If you find it, the problem of having a deficit of energy will no doubt no longer be an issue, for the heart and mind will perk up and rush with enthusiasm towards their cherished dream. However, if at the present time you do not feel able to take action and conquer new heights, there is no point in trying to determine your goal. In this case, it is very probable that the pendulums will exploit your weaknesses and force their own goals upon you. In order to find your own goal, you have to have a certain level of freedom, above all, from obligations to others and yourself. And to be successful, you have to be able to free yourself from one final weight. You have to allow yourself not to have a personal goal for the time being. The search requires a certain amount of free energy, and so achieving it should be your first priority. Free energy. We've talked about all these very complicated and different kinds of techniques in reality transurfing with different episodes if you go back through. But the interesting thing is, he always comes back to energy as being the most important thing. And if you look at some of the different exercises, like the transaction technique, they have an energy component at the beginning of them. A lot of these do. So you can get caught up in the weeds of some of these chapters, but if you don't have the energy, you're not going to be successful with this. And so this is giving you a way to free up excess energy. We have a boundless amount of energy. I also do think that energy exercises then become important. Energy exercises mentally with meditation, and Qigong energy exercises. And I'm working on that too. It's something I'm fascinated by. And so is Vadim Zeeland in another one of his books where he's answering questions from letters. He has a lot of extensive knowledge about a technique called the 5 Tibetans. So I'm working on a video to explain that particular technique because it has radically increased my energy. When I did it for about 3 months, it really was a powerful and effective thing. So since it's in that transurfing world, I definitely want to talk about it. Do you have an energy routine? And if you do, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear your energy routine. I'm trying to put together some good ones to check out are Troy Casey's Certified Health Nut, and Lee Holden has some amazing energy Qigong exercises that are simple and not hard, that you can get energy from the outside world, similar to what we're talking about. But in terms of this chapter, there are 3 methods you can use, according to Zealand, to increase your energy levels: free up resources, exercise your energy channels, and widen your meridians. When you free up resources, you get a tangible influx of strength. Whereas previously, you gave energy to pendulums related, for example, to alcohol or tobacco. This energy will now be at your disposal. So think about that. When one thing that you get energy from when you do the transurfing is you learn how to control how you give energy to pendulums. But imagine being able to free up the energy you have to pendulums and your obligations and the excess potential. That is why this is such a powerful technique, because it takes the energy component on a physics-based level almost. When we are fountains of energy, but we're running so much energy and giving so much out to our concerns, to our worries, to people around us, to pendulums. So if we can withdraw the energy that we give to pendulums and free up our energy, then we become fountains of energy. It's amazing. Previously, you spent energy on stress and anxiety. Now this energy can be transformed into the resolve to act. Previously, you spent energy on doubt and hesitation, tortured by the question of whether what you were doing was right or not. Now you decide what right means for you. Previously, energy went on worry and obligations related to a sense of guilt. Now this energy is free. Previously, you were tormented by the need to confirm your significance. Now, you allow yourself to live according to your own beliefs, and you feel more at ease. Your previous outgoings have been transformed into income, into the energy of intention, which will help you to create your own reality. Earlier in Transurfing, on other episodes, we talked about the fact that the energy of intention can be improved with exercise, just as physical exercise develops the muscles, achieving new goals, increasing your energy levels. However, when the main peaks are taken and life takes on a calm flow of energy of intention atrophies. This fall in energy level can be compensated for by doing energy exercises. As you may recall, the principle lies in focusing the attention on the rising and descending currents whilst doing any physical exercise. If to this exercise you add visualizing the process in which you play a slide in your mind, in which you see you reserve of the energy of intention increasing with every day, the exercise will be even more effective. Once induced, the energy of intention will increase of its own accord. So, have you done that? A lot of people that listen to the podcast, I've heard, when it's not a meditation, like to listen to it in the gym. So, if you're listening to this in the gym right now, try that out and tell me what you think. I've tried it a few times, but I always get distracted. So, if you can just run your energy while you're doing your exercise and imagine that the energy is increasing your energy of intention. Just do that simple thing. Maybe we can put together a meditation if that can help. But yeah, just tell me how that works and if you've been able to do it for you, or if you have any particular secrets. If you have exercised your energy levels intensely on one day, you can expect there to be consequences on the next. Do you think you will already have more energy? If only that were the case. On the contrary, you will be broken. If you restart physical exercise after a long break from training, all your muscles ache the following day. It is the same when you exercise the energy of intention. Except that the next day, it is not pain you feel, but tiredness and a feeling of being downcast. This is nothing to worry about. It will soon pass and things will return to normal again. The important thing is to take a methodical approach. Tell yourself every day, my intention energy increases with every passing day. I say that to myself at least once a day. Try it. My intention energy increases with every passing day. After a few sessions, you will feel such a boost that you literally want to jump up and down and fly, according to Zealand. I haven't necessarily wanted to fly, but I've definitely had a boost myself. So tell yourself every day, my intention energy increases with every passing day. And finally, the most direct route to increasing your energy levels is to cleanse the body and shift to a diet of natural foods that have not been treated with heat. So here we get the first inklings of this story that you hear about Vadim Zealand, that he only eats raw foods. And when I heard that, of course, I went out and bought a bunch of raw foods, found some actual restaurants, one nearby that doesn't cook it, that creates raw food that you can eat. And it was tough. Maybe it's specifically for me. I tried, and I'm going to probably try again, but if anybody out there has tried that, then let me know. I'd like to know if that worked for you, because it's a big thing with him. So the question is why, he asks. This is a separate and far from superficial theme, and we will come to it later. For the time being, for the sake of brevity, I will introduce the following analogy. Energy flows through the body like water flows through a pipe. When the body is cleansed, it is like when a pipe is clean and the water pressure is strong. It is quite natural and straightforward to cleanse the body and maintain it in that condition. You can also take another approach. You can clean the pipe with the aid of a high-pressured water source. This approach requires the practice of meditation. This approach is long and complex, and so I suggest the simplest and most direct approach, which involves physiological cleansing. High energy levels bring a person to a state that is called inspiration. When you're inspired, you are capable of generating ideas, coming up with innovative solutions, and creating masterpieces. A muse, like a moth, is always drawn towards the light. Skepticism and apathy are evidence of low energy levels. When you experience a deficit of energy, you always look pessimistically at the world, and this will instantly be streamed into physical reality. When you have high levels of vitality, you transmit into the mirror of the world the image of a successful person, and then success comes towards you without you having to chase it. There's one more thing to add about inspiration. You may have noticed that inspiration sometimes behaves strangely. Sometimes there are peak moments when the impossible seems possible, but for some reason the enthusiasm quickly fades and is replaced with pragmatism. The fire of optimism burns out quickly, and the former gloom of the gray world reigns, in which ideas about to take flight begin once again to appear hopeless. What is the point of inspiration if all it does is build castles in the sky? The answer is that what we have just described is not so much inspiration as euphoria. This condition is experienced when there's a sharp shift from low energy levels to high energy levels. Such a shift happens when strong stimulants are used, or simply when some unusual piece of information excites the imagination. An anomalous burst of energy opens the conscious mind to sectors of the alternative space that lie at a great distance from those that are currently realized materially. Theoretically, these alternatives can also become realized, except that they are situated further from the stream of the alternative's flow. And so their physical materialization requires greater energy expenditure. It is for the same reason that ideas that seem brilliant in a dream fade upon waking. In dreaming, the soul mostly flies into areas of the field that have very little in common with physical reality. Genuinely real ideas are only born of the stable energy of intention. Equally, they lie relatively close to the alternative's flow. In order for the conscious mind to go beyond the limits of the material world and touch on these ideas, one either has to be endowed with a special gift or have consistently high energy levels. Hence, one can easily compensate for a lack of talent in this area. The benefit of the energy of intention is not limited to providing a person with high levels of vitality, which enable them to act effectively in the material world. What is much more interesting than this is that the higher your energy level, the faster your desires are manifest in physical reality. When the energy of the cosmos passes through the human body, it is programmed by their thoughts and acquires ordered form. It is in exactly this way that a radio transmitter transforms electricity into a signal carrying specific information. Once it has received an informational structure, a person's energy can illuminate the corresponding sector in the alternative space. As a result, the metaphysical potential reality is made manifest on the physical side of the dual mirror, and the thought is realized materially. Obviously, the greater the power of the emission, the more effective the process of materialization. As you know from previous chapters, the realization of a thought does not take place instantaneously. Otherwise, our life would be like a computer game in a world of total chaos. In order to form a reflection, it is essential that there be a sharp image born of the unity of heart and mind, or a relatively lengthy period of deliberate concentrating one's attention. Perhaps one day someone will invent a materializer for the alternative space, if of course God allows it. After all, artificial intelligence is still unattainable to us, and so it should be, for who knows how it would all end if it were not. The most important thing here is that we are capable of transforming our dreams into reality. Having high energy levels do not necessarily mean using force in order to effectively create the layer of your world. You have to feel a sense of oneness with it and even identify yourself with it. You have to take a fresh look at your surrounding reality. I am master of my reality, just as I am master of my body. You have to enter into the same time patterns as reality and not expect instant change. You need to be calm, patient, and focused on your goals. It is easy for you to control your body, for that is something you see as a matter of course. However, some people lose this capacity as a result of certain illnesses. The body may make controlled movements or enter into a paralyzed state, becoming deaf to intention. When we are embarrassed, it is also difficult for us to have total control over our bodies. For example, the hands of a person who is inhibited and shy often make uncontrolled movements. In this state, there is no unity of heart and mind. The relationship between a person and the layer of their world is much more difficult. People feel isolated from their surrounding reality. They feel as if the layer is somewhere outside of them, as if it too makes uncontrolled movements, and the person can do nothing about it. Once a person begins to feel a sense of oneness with their world, they acquire the ability to control it, just as they control their body. This ability has totally atrophied, but it can be restored. To do so, you have to constantly pay attention to the circumstances that surround you. Feel yourself to be part of this world, to be in context with it, and look for what connects you with it. In other words, to be a separate particle of the world, and at the same time as dissolved within it. I will not try and hide it. This is not an easy task. It is not something that you can be taught. A person can only acquire a sense of oneness with the world by means of their everyday experience of life. And this path may turn out to be as long as life itself. So for those who do not find the idea of painstaking practice of spiritual perfection attractive, there are simple, accessible instructions. The thing is that you do not always get what you want immediately. But whatever happens, you get that which you have focused your intention on. For example, if you need to increase your muscle mass, your attention should be focused on a slide which depicts your muscles growing. If you need to lose some weight, all your thoughts should be about how your body is becoming leaner. If your goal is to increase your levels of the energy of intention, then you must focus on your energy channels and an energy body. And finally, if your intention is not directed towards anything, you will not get anything. Doing exercises without a specific purpose is a waste of time and effort. When your attention is focused not on the goal but on the effort, physiological energy is expended. But that is all. For effort is a path to the goal, a means to an end. You will find yourself constantly on the path because the mirror simple reflects the content of the image. Children are overflowing with energy, but this energy is uncontrollable and is usually useless, scattered into the atmosphere. In the same way, if a person develops their vitality to a high level, but fails to give it a specific direction, the energy will be equally as useless. A simple lamp can only light up the area immediately surrounding it, whereas a narrowly focused laser beam will shine on a point many kilometers away. Therefore, if you want energy to work for you, it is essential that you focus it in the specific direction of a goal. Purposefulness directs the energy of intention in a strictly determined direction. Concentration is essential, and the concentration means focus, not tension. The thought mixer works automatically. Ideas are born and fade uncontrollably. Thoughts jump from one theme to another. The mind will restlessly swing its legs like a little child. In order to control reality, you have to strive to keep your thoughts under control. It might feel a little awkward at first, but with time, it becomes a habit. In order to develop this as a habit, it is sufficient to follow one simple rule. Teach yourself to think about the thing you are doing in the moment. Do not do anything just for the hell of it, swimming in an amorphous juice of uncontrollable thoughts. Proclaim a declaration of intention. This does not mean that you always have to be on your toes. You can let your mind drift as much as you want to, but make it intentional. By principle, if my mind wanders, it is only because I allow it to do so. In italics. So in this way, you can deliberately return to a state of concentration when it is required. Essentially, the point is to make the image in your thoughts mostly contain the picture you would like to see reflected in the dual mirror. It is not necessary to remain in an ideal state of organic unity of heart and mind all the time to achieve your goal. It is enough to systematically focus your attention on the target slide. By controlling your train of thought, you subject reality to your will. It does not matter that your thoughts keep going out of control. The important thing is to acquire the habit of returning them to the stream of the target slide. When you have the habit of returning your thoughts again and again to the goal, the slide becomes a constant companion, and its image will always be in the background in the context of all that happens to you. Have no doubt, the image will be formed, and the mirror of the world will be inevitably reflected in reality. Every individual has their own layer of the world. You could say that the reflective surface of the dual mirror is many-layered. Every living being has a mirror plate at their disposal from the moment they are born. The individual's thoughts and intentions construct an image which is reflected as a separate reality. Now, the word plate is used, but it's not P-L-A-I-T. It's every living being has a mirror plate, P-L-A-T-E. The entirety of all realities are arranged in layers, creating what we observe as physical reality. In the case of the man, the layer is a habitat, everything that surrounds him. Individual reality is created in two ways, physical and metaphysical. In other words, the individual creates the layer of his world by thought and action. It is difficult to judge which of these two aspects influences reality more. It is probable that thought forms play the leading role because they create a significant portion of the material problems a person spends a great deal of their time battling with. As you will now understand, Transurfing deals exclusively with the metaphysical aspect of reality. Every individual lives in a specific environment in which they are surrounded by a multitude of people and material objects. So how does one delineate a separate sphere of existence within this motley environment? It is very simple. If you out the material aspect of the environment to one side for a moment, you are left with an essential quality that interests us above all. How are things going, well or badly? A person's surroundings may be abundant or poor. Friendly or aggressive. Comfortable or less so. But that is not important. What does have meaning is the extent to which that person is happy in these conditions, whether they receive what they strive for, and whether circumstances seem to unfold fortuitously. This quality of the layer, its hue, has the deciding influence on everything that happens in material reality. A layer can have light and dim hues. It all depends how a person organizes their forms of thought. The more negative their thinking, the gloomier their particular reality will be. The worse things go, the more resentment builds up, which, due to the feedback chain, causes the layer to darken even more. From this, we conclude that your individual reality must be kept clean, just like the body. All negative thoughts must be decisively and sharply driven out so that they do not have time to ruin your world. Away with them. It is just the same as having to take the rubbish out. I like how they say rubbish. Take the trash out. Or do the cleaning. You have to get rid of the old junk. Otherwise, however hard you try, things will always go badly. However, there is a certain kind of junk that is not that easy to eliminate from your world. This junk is feelings of guilt, inferiority complex, doubt, stress, fear, dissatisfaction, hostility, and negative expectations. These are like our aches and pains that we could not only be too glad to get rid of, but we do not know how to. So you have to treat them. There is a remedy available. Imagine this scene. A person and their world set off in a magic bus to a place where dreams are transformed into reality. So, my dear, here we are, off to get you a toy. That is a great world. The happy journey seems most promising. Everything is going brilliantly. What else could you ask for? Yet the anxious mind is not used to it. The mind is always glancing to one side, hoping to spot a problem. It is not possible for everything to be okay. Hey, stop the bus over there. The righteous that judge me, we should give them a lift so that they can make amends, so that I can make amends. No, my sweet, that is nonsense. Please, we must, otherwise I will not have any peace. The bus stops and a group of dubious-looking types climb aboard and start complaining and making demands. We are your judges, they say. Nothing can be done about them, and so the bus drives onwards. Overall, the situation is not too bad, but the person keeps fidgeting. Look, he tells the world, look at those lovely people. Let us take them with us. They will set a good example for us. I ask you, what would we want of extra passengers? So he's using an example of there's some people that really need a ride, but you don't need to give them a ride, but then if you leave, then you feel guilty about not giving them a ride. So the world makes weak attempts to protest, but it is forced to agree, and the bus is filled with haughty individuals who make it quite plain in their manner that everyone else is below them. We are your ideal. Along the way, fear, stress, doubt, and negative expectations are all hitching a ride. And of course, the person tries to rationalize the situation wisely. Perhaps these are wise travelers who will give us direction and save us from getting lost. As you wish, my dear. The world agrees and welcomes the clamoring public aboard. We are your common sense, they claim, and continue with their common sense moaning to turn the journey into hell. In addition to everything else, the road is blocked by displeasure, blame, and aversion. The person really does not want to meet with them, but the world is so accustomed to taking with it everything the mind gives it attention to. "We are your nightmare," scream the unsavory types as they burst through the doors. By now, the person who would not only be too pleased to get rid of his annoying companions, but it is too late. The bus is overloaded and can drive no further. The manipulators, the cardboard idols, the hysterics, advisors, and other vermin have ruined everything. But who is to blame? Why did they have to come along in the first place? The most destructive type of all this junk is the feeling of guilt. Whether the individual is conscious of the feeling or not, if you've noticed that the world punishes you and behaves as if it is mocking you or trying to undermine you, then you have all the symptoms of the disease. Drive this infection out. Give it a good kick. The feeling of guilt is an unwanted and cocky guest who sinks into your armchair, puts their feet up on the table, and starts to dictate their conditions. You are quite capable of throwing them out if you are conscious of the fact that this is within your power. Even if you are genuinely guilty of something, you have the right only to have to ask for forgiveness once. The feeling of guilt generates punishment in the most varied form, from tiny inconveniences to huge problems. You might just cut your finger, or you might end up in some kind of accident. Outer intention will undoubtedly include some kind of punishment in the script. This is how the template worldview works. A misdeed is followed by retribution, and the heart and mind are quite unanimous. In addition, the feeling of guilt puts serious strain on polarization. As a result, balanced forces bring all kinds of misfortune onto the head of the one who is recanted. The worst of these misfortunes is the manipulator, who will stick to you like a persistent fly. Manipulators have made a fine art of inducing a feeling of guilt in their clients. If a person has a tendency to absorb guilt and take it readily upon themselves, the manipulator will do everything it can to dump even more guilt on them. Guilt complexes are seeded within us as early as childhood. Adults often use forbidden methods to force their charges to obey them. If a child spends a long time in the care of a typical manipulator, a kind of microchip is firmly inserted into their vulnerable psyche in the form of an unconscious feeling of duty, an obligation to make amends for some misdeed. Having been successfully programmed, the child is forced to bear a heavy cross and is a puppet in the hands of the manipulators all the time that the microchip remains in the subconscious. So how can it be removed? You cannot suppress guilt. Neither can it be got rid of just like that, because it is too deeply instilled. The heart and mind have lived like this for a long time, eternally obliged to someone. Only a concrete course of action can draw a person out of this condition. Specifically, they have to stop justifying themselves. This is a case where treating the illness eliminates the cause. You do not have to try and convince yourself that you do not owe anyone anything. Simply be mindful of your actions. This requires awareness. If previously you had the habit of apologizing for the slightest reason, now try to adopt a different habit. Only explain your actions when it is absolutely necessary. There really is no need to tell yourself that you are not beholden. It is okay for the feeling of guilt to be inside of you, but do not reveal it externally. Once the manipulators realize that they will not get the same output from you anymore, they will leave you alone. Meanwhile, the heart and mind will gradually get used to the new feeling. You do not justify yourself, which means that must be right, and consequently your guilt simply does not exist anymore. As a result, there will be fewer and fewer reasons for your atonement. So thanks to the feedback chain, external form tidies up inner content. The feeling of guilt disappears, and with it various associated problems. The inferiority complex is another illness from which practically everyone suffers to some degree. This baggage makes a person feel unworthy and incapable, and this is then reflected in physical reality. Earlier on in the Transurfing materials, we talked in detail about the inner importance and the various kinds of problems that arise when a person actively strives to elevate their significance as a result of feeling flawed in some way. The paradox lies in the fact that a law applies here which is very similar to the principle of uncertainty in quantum physics. Importance decreases equal to the extent that it is emphasized. The opposite is also true. A person who has no concern for their significance has it automatically. The attempt to strengthen your position and the emphasis on your positive qualities is an illusion and a chase after the reflection around the mirror circle. But how do you prove yourself that you are special and have no need to prove it? There's one more feedback chain by which the cause eliminates the effect. You have to consciously redirect your intention. Rather than trying to prove yourself or show off, you have to give up all attempts to increase your own significance. When a person manages to stop, and we all know that practically everyone does this in their own way, the people around you intuitively sense that your significance does not need to be confirmed. And as this is so, people are more drawn to them and begin treating them with more respect. As a result, the heart and mind are gradually penetrated, and the conviction that I am in fact worth something. There comes a moment when the mirror circle grinds to a halt, turns in the opposite direction, and starts moving towards you. Self-esteem improves, and it is as if there never was an inferiority complex at all. Doubts, stress, and fear also substantially ruin the picture of a person's individual world. Do not forget that once these thoughts have been reflected in the mirror, something will enter the layer of their world that is really worth fearing. But the greatest damage caused by anxiety is suffered by the goals one has set. Because as you may recall from the previous chapter, anxiety transforms desire into longing. The stronger desire flames like the fear before defeat. The more intense outer importance will be, and the fewer of the chances of success. Abandon any form of waiting that feels like longing, otherwise you will not get anywhere. Intention is essential to the achievement of your goals, and intention is free of doubt and emerges when simple wanting transition to doing. In order to dull the itch of impatience, you need to have a safety net, a backup plan in case of failure, as well as accept the idea of defeat at the onset. The question might arise as to how you can accept defeat beforehand if you're tormented by a desperate thirst to have what is yours. But you will see that when things do not work out, despair or perhaps anger will make you wave your hand and the result you had expected. Despair can also help you eliminate inner importance, i.e., painful feelings of self-importance, if something is not working out for you and hits your ambitions hard. The feeling of hopelessness, which makes you give it all up and ditch your self-importance like a dead weight. You will immediately feel better, free and light. Things will pick up at once. Doubts in the successful completion of a project arise when the mind tries to work on the path and means to achieving the goal. In Transurfing Reality, we have talked a lot about why there is no point in thinking about these things. You cannot know exactly how things will work out for the best. Your task is to concentrate your attention on the goal as if it had already been achieved, and then outer intention will open the right doors at the right time. Now that you know the rules relating to the use of the dual mirror, you have nothing to worry about. The mirror principles constitute the most effective remedy for doubt and fear. Firstly, direct your intention towards maintaining the amalgam, my world takes care of me. Secondly, you must follow the last three of the mirror principles very precisely. For example, you're planning to go to university and want to pass the selection procedure successfully. Prior to the examination, you say to yourself, if I do fail the exam, maybe that would be the best thing for me. Then you will be able to go into the exam feeling cheerful and relaxed. This is called accepting the possibility of failure and moving with the alternatives flow. You are doing what is required of you at the same time as being indifferent to the end result. Or rather, being prepared to think of any outcome as successful. So I think what the concept before, my world takes care of me, sets up the second paragraph. So when you know that the world is taking care of you, and you have this goal and you need to pass this test, and you fail the test, you just know right away that there's a reason for it. There's no point in pretending you do not want to achieve the goal. Self-deception will not work. You have to not think about how the goal will be reached and not get caught up in the script. Your task is to do the work of visualizing the slide and placing one foot in front of the other in the direction of your goal. The mind's control should be focused on following the mirror principles and not on the script. What is the point in worrying if success awaits you in any case? It is for you to decide how you determine your relationship to the outcome, positively or negatively. We are all accustomed to relating to our setbacks negatively, which is why we're all forced to submit to the rules of the game, in which success is difficult to achieve by default. Instead, when you take an inappropriate step, name your failure a success. Then you will stand out from the crowd, and your victory will be secured. The feedback chain works here just as it does in the case of feelings of guilt and self-importance. By switching your attention from the mirror to the image and ceasing the chase after the reflection, you stop the mirror circle. Then You do not have to believe in success or persuade yourself of anything. All that is needed is to refocus your intention on the observation of the mere principles. Once their effect begins to kick in, you will notice that reality is changing substantially. Your mind is convinced that the mirror really does work. Then you finally understand that the road to success is entirely different to how you had previously imagined. As a result, the heart and mind are calmed. Fear and doubt disappear, and the mirror circle comes towards you. The rest of the junk that has to be cleared from your world includes condemnation, dissatisfaction, aversion, and negative expectations. As far as the first is concerned, you have to be clear about the fact that any form of criticism, even if it is justified, is extremely disadvantageous. Criticism is an extremely thankless task. In their attempt to restore the balance between good and bad, balanced forces will do everything in their power to make sure that the accuser be the one to sit in the dock. There will never be a shortage of cause or reason. It is advisable to make any form of criticism on your part taboo. If you feel like you need to criticize somebody, there will be balancing forces. Just stop. Just try it for next month. Don't criticize anybody. As far as all other negative responses are concerned, there is just one thing to say. By playing in the performance, my world does not suit me and I do not like my life, you shape and maintain specifically that kind of reality. Remind yourself again and again that you are standing in front of a mirror and that the amalgam and final three mirror principles can transform the layer of your world into a cozy little corner. Aside from this, there is nothing more to be said. Finally, if you feel bad at the moment, so bad that you have no strength to follow some set of principles, what should you start with? How can you straighten things out and get your reality back on track? Sometimes life does become unbearable. It is like when an alcoholic sobers up and discovers that their life is bleak and harsh. We will take as a typical example how gloomy morning arrives after a great party the morning before, and you have to drag yourself to work. There are all sorts of problems after work parties. The fact that people find it difficult to get back into the rhythm of work is obvious, but strangely, a similar thing happens to technical equipment too. Statistics show that more cars, computers, and other appliances break down on a Monday than any other day of the week. So what is happening to reality? This aspect of reality is created by people when their layers lie one on top of the other. During the hangover period, people have to pay back to the pendulum the interest on the loan. When there is a deficit of free energy, the thought form contains a large portion of negativity. This creates a collective tension at the workplace and nothing comes together. The mirror responds accordingly and reality is warped. If at home electrical appliances get out of sync, it is not so tangible, but in companies that combined warp effect leads to more noticeable consequences. Accidents happen, machinery breaks down, and complex and particularly precise technology works irregularly. Now, I've mentioned this on other episodes, but I know exactly what is happening here. I had a move, and it was a negative move. It was very stressful. I cannot stand moving. It's something I'm going to say I like moving just because I want to say the opposite. But in this particular case, it was a tough move. A lot of stuff. And once I get moved in for a few days, the refrigerator stops working permanently. The washer and dryer stops working permanently, and the dishwasher breaks all at the same time. And now I understand what was happening is that a layer of my reality pulled that in, and the technology doesn't work the same. It's more sensitive. Dust can get in there. And so have you ever had something like that happen where you have some stuff start breaking down? It's not demons. It might be your reality that you're sucking yourself into. The thing is that a person is suffering from depression or is in an altered state of awareness. The layer of their world is drawn into a muddy area of the alternative space. Reality appears to be veiled in a haze. Everything about the surrounding environment remains in place. The conditions are the same as they were previously. The weather may even be fine, and yet something oppressive hangs in the air. If you've not paid attention to the hues of reality on days like this, then before, observe them in the future. You will feel as if the material world is staring at you with cold hostility. The quality of its layer has changed. Everything is going badly today. Now, this quality is the cloudy haze, and it is a very tangible impact on everything, including technical equipment. This goes all the way back to the Wave of Fortune chapter. Check out my episode on that one. So you start to, you have a flat tire, and then you go through a wave, you pull in the energy, and then the next thing you know, something else happens, and you have a problem at work, and then somebody yells at you, and you have these bad things that happen in groups. Well, same thing happens, good things, but we just don't notice it. We don't remember it. And start noticing when you have strings of good things happening. And a lot of times, it's the result of a wave of fortune that is created by artificially in the morning, just choosing something to be super excited about and just blasting out a wave of positive energy. Definitely going to be having an explosion meditation technique coming soon because it's similar to that. You just blast out a wave of energy in the morning as far as you can, and then you just up-level the reality that you're in. And that is how you ride the wave of fortune. It's the same concept going both ways. The onset of a bad patch in life comes either with physical ailments brought about by a deficit of free energy or from negative emotions that are experienced when our expectations are not fulfilled. To avoid letting cloudy areas into reality, it is essential that you increase your energy levels. When your vitality reaches the necessary level, you no longer feel irritated. You must also do everything mentioned above about keeping the layer of your world clean. But for now, if you're depressed, you have to first straighten out your reality and lead the layer of your world out of the cloudy haze into a clear area of the alternative space. How is this done? There is one recipe for this, and like all things of genius, it is very simple. What do you do when a child is crying? How do you comfort it? Words do not have any effect. You have to walk with it, show some care and attention. When you feel down, it is the child in you crying. Take care of it, despite the fact that many of you appear to be serious, respectable, imposing, or cool. We are essentially remain the child. Push yourself on the merry-go, meaning do a little of what you like doing most. Take some special time out to relax without thinking about problems that distress you. My world and I are going for a walk. It will be time well spent because it is essential to clean your layer out. Much depends on this. Buy your favorite treat. Eat, my love, get better. Devote the entire day to yourself, to your pleasures. Look after yourself and put yourself carefully to bed. Go to sleep now, my dear. Your world will take care of everything. And there you have it. The next day, if you're diligent and observe the mirror principles, you will feel that the reality that surrounds you has begun to acquire a warmer and softer hue. Your layer is coming out of the haze. If you are observant, you will be amazed at how real it all is. The material world that previously seemed stationary will begin to literally transform before your eyes. The oppressive atmosphere will lighten. Stopped clocks will start ticking again, and people will be more drawn towards you. The way the gigantic dual mirror works is simply stunning. Reality moves unnoticeably in the alternative space, like the minute hand on a watch. But that does not mean it is not moving. That is how you can decorate your reality. But that is not all. Would you like to do a full-blown renovation? Think back to what it was like in your childhood. All the colors were bright and vivid, and life was wonderful and full of promises. You were happy because the layer of your world, like your body, was fresh and clean. The world took care of you. True, you might not have valued it immensely, but you did not have any particular complaints either. With time, complaints and negativity in the image of your thoughts increased. As a result, the hues in your layer faded, and life entered into a period where people started to say those were the days. This effect is described in the earlier materials in previous episodes about transurfing as the generation shift. Time flies by. The past feels as if it were only yesterday, and yet it was all such a long time ago. Age tenaciously and inevitably takes its toll, and hope fades, and the world begins to deteriorate. Surely the party is not coming to an end already. No, there is still time to bring it all back. The former colors, the newness of feeling, and the delights of hope. If you adhere to the mirror principles, you will encounter an amazing phenomenon. The former freshness of the layer of your world will be restored when you manage to straighten out the generation shift for yourself. Then you will feel fully what it really means to control your own reality. So that's from the beginning section of that chapter. And so you can see some interesting discussion on intention energy, on guilt, and how important that is to eliminate, and the way that you can get pulled into certain layers of reality. All of this stuff is very interesting, and when applying the mirror principles, is very effective. Check out my episode on the mirror principle in Haughty and Transurfing. I have an episode where I go over all the mirror principles, and we'll definitely go over the chapter on the dual mirror someday in the future. But I wanted to just discuss this energy of intention, because this intention energy, I believe, is the most important, and we have so much of it. And if you're struggling right now, you have some intention that you've been working towards and you're struggling, it has something to do with this intention energy. So we want to consciously increase your intention energy. You can do energy exercises. You can simply start saying that every day, start focusing on pulling in energy, doing actual energy, physical exercises, breathing techniques. But all of that stuff is important. Building your energy, start checking your energy levels and how much you're inspired, because you need to feel inspired. And that inspiration, that creative joy and energy is the energy of intention. And it has a lot of different parts to it. You know, in times in your life when you had that energy that inspired you to act, to create, to think of new ideas that had power and resonance compared to other energies. There's a special kind of energy. It's an intelligent energy that enters the body and takes us over almost. So that is what we're trying to increase. And the energy of intention is an amazing concept. We'll definitely talk about more stuff in the future. We've talked about so many different concepts about transurfing in so many different ways, and a lot of this stuff does kind of repeat itself. But the bottom line is, I probably need to do another video to summarize everything we've talked about. I had an early summary video, but it's probably time to do another one to really discuss transurfing and how it can help you. But there's a lot of concepts in here that are used in a lot of different other mediums and other studies when people talk about the law of attraction or parallel realities. It's just very interesting. So, how is your energy intention doing? And what are the things that you can do to increase your intention energy? What burdens are holding you down like weights around your neck right now? What things can you eliminate easily that are pulling away your energy? Maybe it's just something in your house that you need to get rid of. Maybe it's guilt that you have built up about something that you shouldn't be feeling guilty about. Really analyze the polarities in your body, the emotions, your thoughts, and what your thoughts are about. What are you wasting your thoughts on? Are you letting your energy get pulled in by pendulums? You have this vast storehouse of energy, but so many things want to take it away from you. And the best energy, the energy of inspiration, creativity, and joy, that's the energy we want to have more of. And you can do this. Keep on doing the energy exercises from the Transurfing Energy video. Keep working on your energy. Make it a focus every day to state the intention that your intention energy is increasing, because this is the most important thing. It is a prerequisite for any sort of major attempts to control your reality, and that is that you have this intention energy. And for people that you've seen in your life that are master manifestors, that are masters at transurfing, that have achieved incredible things, I guarantee you, if you were to spend time with them on a daily basis, they probably have a lot of intention energy. And it's easy to talk about all these other techniques and slide techniques and framing and all these things. But if you don't have the intention energy, none of it's going to work. So focus on the energy first. In my interview with Cynthia Sue Larson, who talks about quantum jumping and moving in through parallel realities, and something I've also talked about on numerous episodes, if you look on the quantum scale at a particle, when it jumps, when you see a quantum jump on the quantum scale, there is a generation of energy. It doesn't just simply move to a new orbit around when you're looking at an atom. They jump from one place to another, and the only way they can jump to that is they need a certain amount of energy. So when you have the energy of intention, you can make bigger changes, travel to better parts of the alternative space. These things of energy are important. And in the interview, she said she's gone back and she's doing Tai Chi classes, because she's saying that's the most important thing. Learning how to control and bring in energy with simple basic energy exercises, because that is the thing that will allow you to achieve demonstrable results in your reality. And so make that a focus to increase your intention energy. And of course, I'll have more meditations in the future. Got some crazy meditations lately. Some of them, if they're not for you, I understand. I've had some, a recent one, Downloading God, which you might find interesting. But got lots more interviews and inspirational messages and episodes and deep dives coming soon. The Reality Revolution is growing. So many new subscribers and great, awesome people that are coming onto the threads. It's so exciting. It makes my day every day to know that we can all make a difference, and together we can create a pendulum that is outside of all these other ridiculous pendulums. We can serve others and help bring peace and happiness and joy and bliss to this entire planet, raising it on such a large scale, our own beautiful pendulum of this planet right now. And we're doing it because it's a revolution. It's a literal reality revolution. Our reality is changing before us, and we can choose right now what kind of reality that we choose. So bring up your intention energy and learn these techniques. And thank you so much for joining me. As I always say, welcome to the Reality Revolution.